Hey guys, it's Jack. For my persuasive speech, I decided to do guns on campus and pretty much the threats they impose, whether you're a student who has a license to carry or whether or not you're a professor at any schooling level, preschool, elementary school, to all the way up to college. In the first slide, I just want to ask what it would like to be you. Imagine your family paying for tuition, you knowing you're going to school for a very great education, essentially, and you have to walk around worrying about people that are having guns or things you say could piss them off. Uh, so, for this second slide, what I want to show you is recently it's the anniversary this past month of the Virginia Tech shooting, and it still shows a tremendous impact on pretty much what it's like and to have guns on campus and what it can really do to you and the impacts it has on people that don't even go to the school, families, colleagues. In this next slide, like I showed, April 30th at UNC, two people were killed at Highlands, Colorado, and four others were injured. And you know, there's so many different gun violences that happen, but a lot of the ones you hear are always on campus. So this next slide that I'm showing you is a little bit about the statistics and the records since schooling started and how much it's gone up and the access that not only people have to guns, but young teenagers growing up really have, and what the threats these guns can really impose. My next slide is a quote that you can see, and it says, "No one will know whether the other person can simplify or retrieve or pull a gun out to dispute arses." And this was pretty much a whole thing written in an article, Prevent a Gun Act, and people aren't academically able to thrive if they are surrounded by people who have guns. And hearing these stories, let alone, would even make myself think that, things you could say or do could, stir up such a ruckus that the violence is out of proportion. Um, so my next slide, what I want to show you is does this scare you? You see the person with the handcuffs, you see a person in jail, and you see those pills. A lot of what happens in these gun-related violences on campus is at these frat parties, at these sorority events, at these tailgates for a football game, athletic event, whatever sort of social event it really is. But under the influence of alcohol and drugs, the chances are way, way, way more at stake for someone to use a gun violently and end up getting in trouble for it. You don't even have to use the gun per se, but the bluff front that the gun offers is very, very, very violent to not just people at the school, but the community in general. So this next slide I want to show you talks a little bit about what the International Association Campus Law Enforcement Administrators have to say. And it's important to see that, these people in trying to prevent these gun arguments think that academic freedom argument and they should fear paranoia and are antithetical to creating a kind of climate and free and open academic thrive for learning. And it's likely to lead to more homicidal type injuries, even if people aren't dying. So regardless or not, guns on campus just really, really isn't a good idea. This next slide talks about what the Supreme Court said. It was a case, Supreme Court versus Heller, that happened, and basically, what this is trying to say is, in the opinion, no doubt, longstanding prohibitions against guns and the possession of firearms um, are most likely seen by felons and people who are mentally ill, and that these laws forbidding the carrying of firearms could have a sensitive effect or meaning on schools, government buildings, like seen in the Sandy Hook school shooting. But no guns altogether really just is a better idea, because if no one has a gun, no one could severely get injured. I understand that regardless what happens, people are going to get their hands on guns, but if we can try to have no one getting guns, then the severity of injuries, deaths, let alone, would decrease immensely. Um, so this slide is probably one of the hardest slides I had um, time really putting in. Places like Somalia, Africa, and Brazil, they have, Colombia, kids growing up around these areas in poverty, and you have families, cultures in America that know family, or is that their culture, and it's how it is for a lot of these people. They grow up around guns, they grow up around violence in poverty, and there's nothing they can really do about it. Your attitude towards guns could be one or another on the right or left side of the spectrum, but at the end of the day, you're really not going to be able to control what happens, especially in the environment you're in. And it's sick to see how young these boys are. Personally, I have shot guns before, but not at an age such as young, and so many guns like that, firearms, is crazy to see. And that's really the impact it has on young kids our age. If kids this young are holding guns like that, I can't imagine the influence they're having on them later in life. It's astonishing to really see. But the majority of my speech, I wanted to sum up that guns just shouldn't be allowed, especially in the education system, because the system is an education system, and to learn that doesn't have anything to do with guns. Maybe if you were to want to train after to be a police officer, but education systems, preschool through 12th grade to college, guns do not need to be involved, and it really, really has a drastic effect, not only on the number of killings, but the effects on families, people worldwide, other countries seeing it, and it really takes a toll on the whole world. So, but I hope you guys enjoyed my speech. This is our final speech. I enjoyed being in this class, and I hope to see some good responses from you guys. Thanks. Have a good one.